Today we're going to go over a concept that is going to change the way you solo forever. But be sure to stick around to the end of the lesson because I've got a free gift for you and your guitar that you're both going to love. So the concept we're going to be going over today might be one of those things that you are familiar with, you've seen it or heard it before, but you still haven't figured out quite how to apply it to your guitar playing in real time. Well, if that's the case, we're going to change that. We're going to be going over playing over chord changes, and we're going to do it in the simplest way possible, I think, by use of triads. The key we're going to be looking at today is A minor, and we're going to be using an A minor blues backing track, which is on our YouTube channel and our backing tracks playlist, but the link for the backing track will be in the description box. So breaking down the chord progression from that backing track, we have the 1 minor, which is A minor. Then we have a D minor or D minor 7 for our 4 minor. And then we're going to have a sharp 5, which is an F7. And then our 5, which is E7. And that sharp 5 there, very common, very on brand for the blues. It's something that's great, that adds a nice point of tension, that gives some opportunity to play some interesting, sort of colorful lines, but also kind of accentuates that flat 5 note if you think about like the blues pentatonic scale. It just really lets that note pop out. I love it, So those are the chords in the backing track. So if we're going to take an approach to soloing over that particular chord progression that's beyond just a linear one scale fits all kind of approach, which, naturally it's like A minor pentatonic all day, right? And you'd be right. You can absolutely get away with that. But, there's a lot of room to do some really fun stuff if we focus on the chord changes themselves and actually targeting certain notes over those changes. So that's what we're going to be talking about. What we're going to do is we're going to take each chord and we're going to find a very simple 3-note triad that we're going to essentially outline that will match up in timing, right, with the chords in the progression, but it will also give way to a lot of interesting phrasing that you may not have ever played before. So starting with the first triad, it's going to be a simple A minor triad right here. And we're going to start real simple. I'm just going to do one triad per chord, right, in like one position. I want to stay within the neighborhood of the A minor pentatonic scale because once you wrap your head around this concept, you can use it in tandem with your go-to like blues minor pentatonic licks and they'll work great. So this is more or less a jumping off point for you to get started with this concept. But of course, there are triads found all over the fretboard, but just for all intents and purposes, we're going to focus on just one triad over each chord in one position. So this first one for A minor is right here. So we have our 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the D string, and then on the 5th fret we have the 5th fret G string, 5th fret B string. These are all the necessary components to make up an A minor chord. That's why it's called a triad. It's the 3 notes required to make up a chord. So we have our root note, our minor 3rd, and our 5th. With their powers combined, we have A minor. So what's cool is that this is right inside of the minor pentatonic scale, like especially in the G pattern here. It's right there. So we're not really having to do a whole lot, just really focusing on those particular notes. Now check this out. If I were to play through the scale, the minor pentatonic scale, but when I reach this triad, actually just like play the notes of the triad, so skip the other notes in the scale and then just keep it going, it'll have an interesting sound. A little different. Sounds a little chordy, right? Or arpeggio-y. That's because that's essentially what we're doing, is we're breaking up the notes within the actual chord, and that's what's known as arpeggiating. And you can just target those notes and it absolutely will work over an A minor chord anytime, anywhere. All right, now let's take a look at the 4 minor chord, D minor. And what we'll do is we're going to do a D minor triad here, which is going to be 7th fret on the D string, 7th fret on G, 6th fret on B. And I'm using these fingers, right? I'm using my 3rd finger for that 7th fret on D, my pinky on the 7th fret on G, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret, the 6th fret on B. Because this is, again, like kind of ergonomically allowing me to kind of stay within this neighborhood, in this position, and my hand can kind of continue to stay like this, right, when I'm going through these. Right? Now, what I just did there, right, which I wasn't even thinking, I just kind of did it, but What does that kind of sound like to you? That, you know, it kind of sounds like you're changing chords a little bit, right? It sounds like there's movement between two chords happening, two minor chords. Right? It's like these little arpeggiating back and forth is creating this cool effect. So that with no backing, you can still kind of hear the implied chord changes. That's why it's such a powerful concept. Even just doing it solo, you can imply the chord changes so strongly that your ear will pick it up and be like, oh yeah, you know, you're totally implying a different chord there. Oh, and hey, real quick, if you're getting value out of this lesson, be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It would really help us out, and it lets us know that you want to see more lessons just like this one. So thanks in advance, and yeah, let's get back to business. Okay, so moving on to the sharp 5, right? We're actually going to do this triad. We're going to keep it, you know, between these 3 strings, the D, G, and B strings. We're going to do, it's actually an F major triad. So we're not even so much worrying about the fact that it's a 7th chord, because that's still going to totally work over a chord like that. We have 7th fret on the D string, 5th fret on G, 6th fret on B. Notice how a lot of these triads are sharing notes. It's part of the reason why this is such a simple way to do it, because you're all going to be within this one neighborhood here. So you have, so there's subtle changes, but those implications are there. And if we go to the 5 chord, right, which is E or E7, we're going to just do an E triad, which is the same as this F triad here, only down a fret. Right there, you can already hear like there's very much a departure tonally, right, that wants to resolve back to that minor 1, right? So we have our A minor triad for the 1 minor. We have our D minor triad for the 4 minor. We have our sharp 5 and our 5. Just those 4 triads, right? That's all we're going to need to add into the mix in tandem with our pentatonic notes. But first, what I recommend you do is just focus on playing those notes together. So start with just, right? And then from here, pick up on the 4 minor. And then let's go to the sharp 5, F, right? And then let's go to the 5. And then resolve it on the 1 minor. So you kind of hear the chord changes happening? Alrighty, like you add some rhythm to it, and then it kind of feels like a chord progression is happening. So that right there, those are all the necessary ingredients that we're going to need as far as what notes on the fretboard we're going to be playing for this specific example. What we're going to do next is throw on the backing track, and we're going to listen for the changes, and essentially just watch me. I'm going to point out where the chords are, where they're changing, and I'm really only going to focus on playing the triads. I'm not going to do anything flashier or go off on a pentatonic tangent, hopefully. I'm just going to keep it on those specific notes in the triad, those target notes, and let's see how it sounds. That's the 1. Here comes the 4. Back to the 1. Here comes the sharp 5. 5. 1. Then the 5. Back to the 1. So with that example, we've established that, okay, this works, right? But the key to making it work is being sure that you land on the right triads, right? The right target notes within the triad over the chord in the progression. So this is a blues, so it's very formulaic. You have a framework that's predictable that just repeats. So we have, obviously we start with the 1, goes to the 4, right? Back to the 1. And then when it comes time for the turnaround, we have sharp 5, 5, then we have the 1 again, and then for the final, let's say final turnaround, or well, just the actual turnaround would be the 5 chord at the end, which happens briefly, and then resolves back on the 1. So with that, if we just sit and focus on memorizing that, then once we get through the first go around of those 12 bars, it's like, okay, we got it now, then we can just cut and paste essentially. And then once you get the hang of that, then you can start applying little pentatonic licks in there, right? You don't want to go full on just yet, because you want to learn how to weave and like flow between targeting those triad notes and playing your pentatonic licks, because it'd be kind of weird if you just play a triad, like play through a triad and then play a pentatonic lick that's just kind of like way off the rails and then try to go back to it. Like, you want it to flow. So my recommendation would be is start with just the simple 3-note triads and then add just a couple notes in addition to them. So you can do something like this, And then when the 4 chord is coming, and then sharp 5, 5, 1. So kind of like that, I was just kind of feeling my way through it, but showing you how you can just combine little notes here and there and just stay within that neighborhood. This lesson is meant to get you started with this concept, It's only going to continue moving and refining and expanding across the fretboard from here. So I'm going to throw on that backing track one more time, and I'm going to kind of talk through the changes and then just kind of play and do what I said about focusing on those triad notes and then peppering in some minor pentatonic licks here and there. And by the way, you don't have to arpeggiate. You can just kind of like go in random order. Here comes the 4. So it's just another example, where I was just getting comfortable with the idea of sticking to those triads, and then as I was like getting into the flow of things, expanding a little bit, and then kind of venturing outside of just like this little neighborhood, going a little bit up here and stuff. Over time it's going to be something that's going to become more comfortable and become more like second nature. But you want to start with one area and then you'll expand outwards, because these very same triads can be found in multiple positions and on multiple strings and in multiple octaves all over the fretboard. But like I mentioned earlier, this is only the beginning. This is what's going to get you started. But once you're ready to go from here, the sky's the limit. But what's going to take you up to the sky? Well, you remember that free gift I was telling you about? It's right here. This bad boy right here is exactly what's going to get you there. This is a system I developed called the Fretboard Conveyor Belt. It's going to teach you how to play comfortably and confidently all across the fretboard. So you're going to be able to take what you've learned today and expand it, just like we talked about. So be sure to click here to claim your free copy, or check that link in the description box. There are so many ways to express yourself musically, and there's never a requirement to make it complex. And even playing the simple stuff can be done in a way that's infinitely interesting. All it takes is just some small changes.